So, the writer of Boruto's manga, Mikio Ikimoto, recently hinted at the possibility that Daemon's true power stems from his ability to see the future. This also explains the power Daemon sensed within Himawari's body back in part 1, which might be surprising to some and not so much to others. But yeah, we have a lot to discuss, but of course, let's start from the top. So yeah, Mr. Ikimoto was interviewed recently and he did cover different topics relating to Boruto, none of which having to do with the Jogan, by the way, which is really annoying. But either way, we did get some interesting tidbits having to do with Momoshiki and stuff, but we're gonna cover those in a different video. This one is more so tailored to Mr. Daemon and his ever-evolving ability that keeps changing the more we get towards the end of Boruto's story. But either way, this is the question that was posed to Ikimoto. Was the power Daemon felt from Himawari actually Kurama's? Ikimoto then says Daemon actually felt the future synergy potential of Himawari, who is of Uzumaki and Hyuga bloodline, and Kurama's chakra. Now, this might seem like a load of nothing, but it's actually quite something. You see, for one, this confirms that there isn't some hidden power in Himawari that no one knows about, or some hidden tail beast or Kaguya, or maybe there is and we don't know, but this doesn't say that. This outright says that what Daemon sensed was the future synergy of Himawari and Kurama. And of course, when he says Uzumaki and Hyuga, is referring to the combined bloodline that's in Himawari's body. So in essence, that just means Himawari. And then you have Kurama's chakra. And of course, this is later backed up by Kurama himself, who says that Himawari has a greater affinity to his chakra than any of her predecessors, including Naruto. And that of course is tied to the entire bloodline of Hyuga and Uzumaki merging together, which in essence is Hamura and Hagoromo's bloodline, the two sons of Kaguya who merged with the Ten Tails that created the Biju. So in essence, what Daemon sensed was that synergy between Himawari and Kurama and the potential of what that might become or will become. And this part is really important because that's where the future section comes in. You see, Mr. Ikimoto is quite smart here, right? He didn't say that Daemon sensed the synergy between Himawari and Kurama, which was currently happening. He said that he sensed the future potential synergy. So this is something that hasn't happened as yet. And this also goes back to the context under which Daemon sensed their power initially. For some reason, he thought that she had incredible power, to the point that she would be able to dodge his attack easily. This, of course, is the same guy that's above Code, who is greatly above Jigen. He also notes that she does seem weak from up close, but what was that intensity that he just felt? Well, this all goes back to the future aspect of his ability. The reason why Daemon was able to sense his power 1 second and then it was gone the next isn't because it just miraculously disappeared. The power itself wasn't there to begin with. What Daemon sensed was the potential future synergy that was going to happen between Himawari and Kurama. It hadn't happened as yet. So at some point in the future, Himawari will become strong enough to be able to contend with Daemon himself, at least power-wise. And we're gonna get to the ability section because that's a bit more out there because she doesn't have a counter to reflection. But when it comes to the actual power that's in her body, which contributes to strength, speed, durability, etc., she might be a Daemon level entity. Now, this also plays into Daemon's reflection ability as well, because as I said in the past multiple times, Daemon's power might be linked to clairvoyance similar to his sister Ada. So she has the ability to see the past and the present, which allows her to project her consciousness into past conversations and literally watch them as they occur, or even watch present time events. That is the ability of the Senringan that she possesses, which also has the shape of a crescent moon. And then you have Daemon. He has the ability to reflect attacks and also reflect intent, which are two separate abilities, and his Dojutsu has the shape of a half moon. This is very interesting. As I mentioned before, I did kind of link it back to the Jogan, saying that maybe Boruto has the power to see the future because he has a full moon. It's like the natural progression to the Jogan. The crescent, the half moon, then the full moon. Now I might have been wrong on that one because I do think the one that has the ability to see the future is actually Daemon. Now this isn't to be confused with Momoshiki's future sight ability, which allows him to see one possible future which may or may not happen. For example, Boruto losing everything and all that lovely stuff. And then you have Kashin Koji's prescience, which is an advanced version of that, by the way, which was confirmed in this interview that Kashin Koji has a Shinjutsu and Momoshiki's future sight ability isn't a Shinjutsu. So that's really interesting. So Koji's prescience allows him to see every possible future, every single future that might happen all at the same time. Momoshiki isn't able to do that. He might be able to see more than one future, but so far he only saw one and he was so set on that one future happening and it didn't happen. So it seems that Momoshiki is only limited to one possible future, while Kochi is able to see multiple. Now when it comes to Daemon, this one is really interesting, as in his future ability might be better than Koji's and Momoshiki's, in the sense that Daemon isn't able to see possible futures, he's able to see the future. Now this is what's known as precognition, and we've seen this in other forms of media as well, where characters are able to see the future, and if they don't intervene, the future will play out as they saw it, but they can't stop it if they do try to stop it. Now this is different from prescience because Koji is able to see multiple possible futures at the same time. He has no idea what future is about to happen, so it's not like he can prevent every possible future. He can choose to stop maybe one of them or two of them, but he can't stop all of them. And he has no idea which one will play out eventually. Daemon, on the other hand, has true precognition, which allows him to see the future that is going to play out, the one possibility that's going to happen. Which is kinda crazy since Code questioned Ada back in chapter 57, I believe, if she has the ability to see the future, and she said no, it's not precognition, which might be subtle foreshadowing for Daemon's ability. Now the reason why I say that this plays into Daemon's reflection ability is because it explains why Daemon is able to reflect intent. Now, as you guys know, Daemon has two reflection abilities. One allows him to reflect attacks, which means anything that's in his general vicinity. So you don't even need to aim it at Daemon, it just needs to affect him and that will be reflected. And that one requires him to touch someone for that one to work. And then the second one allows him to reflect intent, and he doesn't need to touch anyone. So as long as you're picturing something in your mind that is going to affect Daemon negatively, that will be reflected onto you. As seen with the guard back in chapter 61, and also when Kawaki thought about slapping him back in chapter 75. Both happened without Daemon needing to touch anyone. Now the mechanics of how this works has been hidden from the audience so far, because Hamada himself, the person who gave Daemon the ability, says, just be careful not to aim murderous intent towards him no matter what, because that too will be reflected. It depends on certain conditions, but it will all rebound back to you. Now these conditions, these certain conditions were never explained, and there's a reason why, and I think the reason why it wasn't explained is because they're saving it for a later reveal, which is that Daemon's ability actually works on his perception of the future. Now the reason why I said your perception of the future is because you can perceive the future in different ways. Some characters have the ability to see literal flashes of what's about to happen or what can happen, while other characters can simply feel it. It's like a sense of intuition. So let's say Daemon has the ability to sense upcoming events, which is what precognition is. This can then be applied to his ability to reflect attacks that haven't occurred as yet, thus the ability to reflect intent. Also, Daemon's ability seems to work autonomously since he doesn't need to be paying attention or be aware of what's happening for the ability to function. And this makes perfect sense, by the way, since in computing, a daemon is a background process that runs continuously, performing tasks without direct user interaction, which is another way to say autonomously. Though unlike Ada's omnipotence or omnipotence, Daemon does have the ability to turn this power off to some degree, which allowed him to fight Boruto in chapter 74, I believe, without reflecting his attacks. So Mr. Daemon seems to be able to control his reflection ability, but he can't control his ability to sense the future or future events. I would argue that Daemon doesn't even know that he has the ability to sense future events because he was surprised at what he sensed from Himawari and was also surprised that he wasn't able to sense it again. So clearly, he doesn't understand how his ability fully works, which kinda mirrors the situation with Ada. So Daemon's precognition per se is simply doing multiple calculations in the background as a background task and process to determine what the future will be, and then it reflects what's about to be aimed at Daemon, of course before it is even fired. Now as I mentioned, Amado did say that there are certain conditions that must be met and we have no idea what those conditions are. So the ability might be broken or seem broken, but there being conditions added to the ability means that there's a way to bypass it. We just don't know it yet. Who knows, maybe Daemon needs to physically see the person that is about to determine what that future attack is about to be or detect their intent, and that's how the ability functions. I did find it somewhat interesting that in every single instance of Daemon reflecting intent specifically, he was always looking at the person. First with the guard, in chapter 61, he was directly looking at him and he also squinted his eyes to focus on him, and also with Kawaki when he reflected Kawaki's intent to slap him. as opposed to the second reflection ability that requires him to physically touch someone to reflect any attack directed towards him even if he's not seeing it. So one ability requires him to see the person and the next one requires him to touch a person. And if I'm correct, and I could be wrong of course, and maybe none of this is connected, Daemon's ability to sense future potential synergy within Himawari is in no way connected to his reflection ability. Maybe that is the case. But if it is connected and I'm correct about this, then one way to bypass Daemon's reflection ability is to block his clairvoyance powers. And funnily enough, Mr. Sasuke, he did one great deed before he went poof and turned into a tree. He created a bomb that had the ability to block clairvoyance, which he did versus Ishiki. So if someone was able to use this bomb in a fight versus Daemon, and Daemon's Dojutsu isn't able to perceive the people around him, then of course, he also won't be able to reflect intent. So that's how one defeats Daemon or bypasses the reflection ability at the very least. And I could be wrong of course as I said, but we'll see. With that said guys, let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. If I missed anything, let me know as well. If you guys liked the video, drop a like. If you're new, subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.